What's the difference between a winning accounting proposal and one that loses to the competition? I'm Kyle Racki, CEO of Proposify. As the proposal experts, we work with some of North America's top accounting firms to help them create and close proposals that impress their clients, beat the competition, and grow their revenue. And I'm going to teach you everything you need to improve your proposal process to win bigger deals faster and stop competing on price alone. First of all, why do you even send a proposal? Why not just send the numbers? Well, for bigger engagements like maybe annual audits, an M&A deal, you might be competing with a handful of firms, and these are for much bigger engagements than just maybe some bookkeeping or year-end tax stuff. Now, you might still want to send a proposal for those needs, but if you're going after a bigger company for a bigger piece of business, a proposal is going to help you stand out from the competition and show the buyer why they should choose your firm instead of someone else's. Proposals can reinforce your positioning. You might not have really thought about positioning much, or you might think of a positioning statement, but that's not really what positioning is. Positioning is your strategy for how do you separate yourself from the others in the mind of your ideal buyer. And if you've done a good job with positioning, it should flow throughout the entire proposal. It's not just included in one section of the proposal. So what are some different ways to position before we get into the nuts and bolts of the proposal itself? Well, you might be able to position based on an industry niche. So some firms only work with healthcare, or they have really deep specific knowledge around healthcare or real estate or construction or some other type of business. And so by including that in your proposal, that can, if you're going after that type of business, and they can choose an accounting firm that knows everything about their industry versus other accounting firms that do everything else, they're going to choose you. You might be able to specialize around a particular regulatory or compliance mastery. So focusing on industries with heavy regulation burdens, such as healthcare. And you can position yourselves as like the compliance experts, and that will attract people looking for that specialty. Another way to position yourself could be with tailored service offerings, so offering customizable packages around, say, tax planning or financial reporting or auditing services. You can focus on high net worth individuals or businesses. Positioning the firm as an expert in, say, wealth management, estate planning, business succession, or something like that can attract businesses like that and separate you from sort of the more mom and pop accounting firms. So once you have this in mind, again, infuse this throughout the entire proposal. So I'm going to share the structure of a winning proposal and dive into each of the individual sections that you're going to need to include. So you want to start with a cover page. I know you might think, what is the point of a cover page? There's no real content on it, but it's the first thing that your buyer is going to see. And you want to include some type of visual that reinforces your brand, that shows people who you are. Maybe it's people on your team. I would avoid cheesy stock photos if you can. This is sort of rife in the accounting industry, is like stock photos of people in suits in offices. You might include some of that, and there might be a place for it. But ideally, you want some kind of a visual that is, ideally something around, your logo, your brand colors, something that just visually pops and makes you stand out from the, pile of Word documents that your buyer, is probably going to be looking at when they look at your competitors. The next part of the proposal is going to be the executive summary, and this is your chance to not summarize the entire proposal, but more so feedback to the client everything that you heard during the discovery process when you were learning about their needs. So this is your chance to be persuasive and share all the things, all the ways that you're going to make your client's life better. And a pro tip here is to include a video. Only about 20% of companies include videos in their proposals. This can be a way to stand out. It's also a way to walk the buyer through your proposal if you can't get in a room with them. A lot of times if there's a buying committee or a stakeholder who holds keys to the budget, they aren't going to talk to necessarily every firm, every company that's bidding on the work. And so this can be a great way for you to sort of record a video, walk through the proposal, clarify things, make sure that they can hear your voice and they can see who you are, and it isn't just text and images that you're relying on for your proposal. The next part of your accounting proposal is going to be your approach, which may also include your scope of work or your deliverables. So this is just how reverse engineer. How do you achieve the outcome for your clients? What are the things that you do in order to ensure that the client is compliant or that they're getting the best return for their investment? Next, you can include an About Us. This is a chance to really talk about your firm, things that, maybe industry awards, how many years you've been in business, maybe talk about the original partners, talk about the team and the people who are going to be working on the account. This is your chance to talk about you. It's really best to put this around the middle of your proposal, not the beginning. You want to start being very buyer-centric. Talk about the client, talk about them, the things they care about before you get into talking about yourself. I do recommend that you use social proof where you can. So this might be the form of case studies, past work examples of clients that you've helped, results you've achieved for them. If you can include testimonials with pictures of clients, that can be really powerful as like social proof of them saying, wow, this firm was really great to work with. We enjoyed, working with them for a long time. Okay, let's get into the pricing. Pricing is arguably the most important part of your proposal because this is where most people go first. And that's what our data shows is that, buyers are always going to go to the pricing page first, even if they still read the rest of your proposal. So you want to make sure that the pricing doesn't confuse them. They don't get sticker shock. It's not priced in a way that they don't understand, because if you don't get past the pricing page, they're not going any further and they're probably going to choose one of your competitors. So there are many different ways to price. Some ways are better than others. As long as your client understands it though, and understands the value that you're delivering, there's no real right or wrong way to price. There's just better and worse. The worst way to possibly bill is hourly based pricing. This is what people are familiar with when they deal with lawyers. And a lot of times lawyers and accountants price in a pretty similar way, which is just, we're $250 an hour, we're $500 an hour, whatever it happens to be. And people generally hate that kind of pricing because they're just like, oh, you're going to take way longer than it actually takes just to pad your hours. Whether or not that's true, that's the perception in the market. Ideally, you can move past hourly billing and get into more like fixed pricing, where you've got predetermined specific services or projects like preparing tax returns, payroll processing, bookkeeping, that kind of thing. And people at least have a number in mind. And as long as you can stay within that, so internally you're not losing profit on the other end. If you've scoped it and estimated it properly, that is often a more buyer-centric way to price your services. You also don't want to get sort of like sticker shock at the end of the engagement. I went through this actually recently. Working with an accounting firm, I had a couple of companies that I wanted them to do the year-end pricing or the year-end taxes for, and they did all the work. That was great, but then I got the bill at the end, and it was way more for some of these than I anticipated, because I just didn't think there was that much to do for them. And so that's a really common gripe that clients have when they're working with accounting firms in particular, is just not really knowing how much something is going to cost and then getting a bill at the end and being like, wow, I didn't think it was going to be that much. And what was I actually paying for? And then you get into like, can you break this down and show me where all those hours went? Another way to price could be retainer-based pricing, which would be, a fixed amount. This is good for like ongoing engagements with people where, you're doing a fixed amount of work on a monthly basis. One final tip for pricing is including passive upsells. So these might be additional services that maybe the client didn't request right off the bat, but you're just saying, hey, we can do this too. And this can be just sort of a nice, like low-hanging fruit way to say, like, if we're doing your year end, we can also do your auditing, or we can, we have bookkeeping services in-house, so that you're not just paying us for the year-end stuff, we're also working with you throughout the year. You only have to work with one firm. You don't have to spread it across multiple. So including these in your proposal, even stuff that the client didn't ask for, can be a powerful way to just increase the profitability on every client that you bring in the door. At the very end of the proposal should be a next step section. This is in marketing called a CTA, a call to action, which is just like, what do I do now? So you don't want to leave it open to interpretation. You want to be able to say really specifically to the buyer, hey, here's the next steps for moving forward with this engagement. And it could be including an e-signature right in the proposal itself. Make it easy for your buyer to sign off and know what to do. You can include a contract in the proposal. If at all possible, it just creates fewer steps so that they don't have to accept a proposal and then have you generate a contract. You can just get it all signed off right then and there. Final piece I'm going to talk about when it comes to proposals for accounting firms is that the content and the price alone isn't going to be all that wins you the deal. A lot of times it's actually the speed with which you're able to get that proposal in front of a client. Often people look for service providers when they're consciously thinking about a problem they want to solve, but people get distracted really easily and that something else commands their attention and they move on and they lose interest. or your competitor gets a proposal to them first and they just go with whoever got it, whoever got the proposal to them the quickest. Hey, they're making my life easy, so I'm just going to go with them. So this can be one of the most powerful ways to win business with all else is the same in terms of the content, is just like get it to them quickly. And the only way to do that is with a really effective process, one that is standardized, that includes a template that's repeatable. You don't want to be just going back and finding and replacing content from past proposals, copying and pasting. You want to make sure that you've got a standard proposal template that includes everything, all the different services, all the different clients and case studies in one, and then it's easy to just remove what you don't need when you need to send a new one to a buyer. Hey, if you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to subscribe to the Proposify channel and hit the bell icon so you get notified for more content just like this.